Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/395. You can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 395th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, Florida Coast, Part 2. Look, there are few rules in bicycle adventuring, but I am a firm believer in the one that says, you do not taunt the bike touring gods. Day one was a breeze, I said. The bike gods considered that taunting and responded with a breeze of their own. Would their wrath of headwinds push me to a screeching halt on my way to Daytona? Folks, before we get into the painful lessons of day two, a reminder, hold the date. Pedalshift 400 Live will be Friday, April 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Check out Pedalshift on YouTube or pedalshift.net/live for more. Ask me anything's for sure. The rest is a surprise, maybe to me as well. I should probably plan this, right? On to the show.
Good morning from Anastasia, Florida. And we are rolling out of Anastasia State Park. And I'm trying to get my phone recording device into a safe spot and failing, so we'll put it in the pocket. What could possibly go wrong? Couple of things of note here at the beginning of day two. First of all, really nice state park. Florida state parks have a really excellent reputation, and I found them to be pretty good. It's just obviously different than what you would expect when you're used to, say, I don't know, Oregon, California, Washington, whatever, just because the terrain and everything is very different. The bathrooms were fine. The campsite was huge, and it was an expensive campsite. You're paying for car camping, basically, when you're at a state park like this. They do not have, unfortunately, hiker-bikers on the state park system, at least the ones that I've experienced. There may be some elsewhere. I should actually look that up. There are hiker-bikers elsewhere. I'll be at one in 2 days. But the amenities were quite good. The gate that I got into was totally fine. I mentioned that at the end of last episode, and I'll be going through it again in a moment here. I have the code. I do believe you need the code to get in and out. And this is a major time saver. And considering today is a 57.7 mile day, which may be the longest I've ever done on the Brompton. I think it is, actually. That will make a big difference. I do have some trash, so I'm going to put it in here. Trash drop. Open trash door here. Boy, they do a nice job of, because these things are so confusing looking. Let's see here. Open that. Goodbye dinner from last night, which consisted of ice cream, basically. There we go. Nona and Papa Road. This is the road that takes you to the gate that I was just describing. The biggest thing last night, and I wish I had known this years ago, because I would much rather do this than take electrolyte pills all day, and how they kind of mess with I get nauseous on them sometimes. They're just a lot. And to be clear, I have taken them under supervision of a naturopathic doctor in the past. In fact, she had recommended it for some of the stuff that I was doing. And I think they would be worthwhile in other contexts. But the banana worked. You can tell when you're about to cramp or you're in danger of cramping. I don't know if you can, I can. And gloriously, the banana worked. And I will definitely take advantage of that. I don't mind a banana. Particularly don't mind a banana when it is stopping me from having major leg cramps. So, big ups to that. Now, I'm going to go on memory here, because here I am at the gate. And it is Oh, I see. Okay, I was worried it was padlocked. I think it's this. Ah, yes, I remembered it. Good. Yeah, this is a 6-foot tall fence, and you cannot get through it otherwise. I would never have been able to get, could have gotten my gear maybe over it, but not my bike. And probably not me either, let's be honest. Okay. And we're immediately in a residential area. Nice homes, porches, very Florida. What do you call them? Sleeping porches. Not the multi-million-dollar homes that I saw elsewhere, but interesting. I don't get into politics on my show, but I just saw a very interesting sign. Okay, let's see here. What else do I have to say about this morning? I woke up at 5:45. I slept really well. I was very happy to go to bed early. The sun went down around 6 or so, and although I didn't probably fall asleep until maybe closer to 9, boy, I slept through the night. The first time I woke up was somewhere in the 2:30 or 3 o'clock range, and that's unusual for me. I mean, super unusual for me. I normally, especially on the first night, I have a very restless sleep. But this night was pretty good. I did have to, what woke me up though was I needed another round of Advil. My stretching and everything did a great job. My banana clearly did a great job. But I did need another Advil. And I took them and went right back to sleep. And woke up at about maybe 5:30. And I was going to get up at 6. And I thought, oh, it's cold, or it felt cold. It really isn't. It's like probably close to 60 degrees. Very humid. And I decided to get up at 5:45. Went to the bathrooms, changed, took care of business, and I was out, let's see, just a few minutes ago, right at sunrise at 7:15. So I would have liked to have gotten out a little bit earlier, but so be it. I'll call it foggy, but it's probably better to call it hazy. It's super humid. It's super, super humid, but cool. And already I can see another cyclist out there right now, and I already blew it. I was supposed to be on other roads. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn back around. Talking to you, I had my map off, and I do not want to be on this road and have to cross and recross. That doesn't sound like any fun, so I think I'm going to go back. Won't be that bad. So yeah, overall, I think normally you hear me say it takes me a couple days to get into the rhythm of a bike tour, and I have to say I snapped right into this. And now we'll have to see how it goes today. Today's a substantially more challenging day, and I of course also just added some miles to it, or tenths of miles at least. We'll probably be maybe we'll be closer to 58 now, which again, on a normal bike tour actually could be a light day, but on the Brompton and the heat, well, it won't be so much heat as it is sun. Yeah, it could be a lot for me, but we'll make it work. All right, so I'm rediscovering some parts here. It's funny, is I think the political sign that I chose not to read for you might be where I was supposed to turn, ironically enough. Yeah, another chance to take a look at these homes. I'm curious, they strike me as middle-class homes, but it could be like a scenario where it's like California, where some middle-class homes are. Let's see, Castile. Is this it? Looks like the next one. It could be worth a ton of money. Again, this is a real estate podcast that occasionally talks about biking. All right, here we go. I am back on track. It's funny because normally this thing yells at me, and yells at me a lot when I am off course, and guess what? Yeah, I should turn to the other one. How about that? Oh no, turn on the next one. This must be fascinating radio for you. But it is just fine going down this. Oh, an A-frame? Unusual design for this area, I would imagine. I would imagine an A-frame would be bad in a hurricane. new builds. Yeah, well, one thing that I'll say about this route is it has quite the distinct, let's see, I want to go left eventually. Oh, I guess I should have gone to one more. I should have gone down one more. All right, well, we'll be fine. I see on the map how I can do this. Tree houses. Seeing so many residential areas is a major feature of this portion of the East Coast Greenway. I suspect that I've deviated a bit off of it by going to the park here, so I'm sure this is not it. But I'll be rejoining it momentarily. It looks like I get on US 1 as opposed to A1A. And US 1, of course, rolls all the way up through DC. I think substantial portions of the East Coast Greenway are on US 1. And comparing it to 101 on the West Coast, it is rarely as good from a cycling perspective. Well, US 101, except for, of course, the freeway portions, can be really good. And US 1 on the East Coast, not so good, which is probably why it deviates a fair amount. Okay, I now have corrected my mistake, and we are going. I don't know if I have much more to say. I think the one thing that I need to be aware of is that packing up in the morning takes me more than an hour. I frequently will think, oh, it'll take me just an hour. Oh, feral cat, hello. And just beautiful, I know I'm ping-ponging all over the place, but going through a beautiful magnolia and Spanish moss area. What a gorgeous spot. Yeah, I'm glad I mucked up my directions a bit, so I got some of this. But in any event, yeah, it's been a good start to the morning. It's been a good start to the adventure, and I will be rejoining US 1 here in a moment. And I think we'll leave it at that for the morning here. And we'll have much more to come as I rejoin here now. I'm on this says A1, interesting. All right, I have rejoined a bike lane. So now on a pretty big road. So this looks like an excellent amount of cycling here. And it's a straight shot. I have very few deviations. The only reason why I'm going to be using Ride with GPS, honestly, today is to eventually get this into the show notes, because as you know, I like to put it in the map, or put the map into the show notes. And then there's a bunch of you go, you have show notes? Yes, I do. Of course I do. At the website, pedalshift.net. All right, now that I have shamelessly promoted it again, it is now time to bid you adieu for now. From St. Augustine Beach. And on A1A again. I was going to say how little traffic there was, and there was until I got here. It's pretty busy this morning, but the haze is starting to lift a little bit, although up in the front of me, you can see it maybe quarter mile up, it starts to fog up a little bit. But I'm basically on this for 24 miles, and then there is a trail in Flagler Beach. I don't know how long it is, but that's also a place where I'm going to be taking an extended break for lunch or something more than yesterday. I just think that it's in my best interest to give myself a little more of a midday rest than I did yesterday. Although yesterday ended up fine, I think I was very flagging towards the end of it, and I just know that I've got more miles. I'm definitely up to 58 miles now because of my little detour, so got to be careful about that. I am not going super fast, and it's hard to tell whether it's just that it's very flat or if there is just an imperceptible little bit of an upgrade, and it's the difference between being in a higher gear and a lower gear in terms of keeping my cadence right. So that's unfortunate. But I think what I've noticed is, whereas I can confidently say I average 10 miles per hour on any of my bigger bikes, whether that's the Goblin or the Safari, I think I cannot confidently say the same on the Brompton. I just go slower. That's probably a function of a variety of things, but I think I can usually bet on around 8 miles per hour as my average, and that might even be a little high as I get passed by a Lycra bound road bike. Bikes are different, folks. They are different. They allow you to do different things, and that is a different thing. Probably was going, if I'm doing 8, was probably doing close to 20. So, good for them. Let's see. I am confident that I'll get there sometime in the next, I'd say, 3 hours, based on that. If I average 8 miles per hour, of course, we'll be taking a couple of breaks. So maybe my confidence level shouldn't be quite that high, but it'll be in that range. And I'm hoping that the amenities are a little bit better on the way down. I do have a breakfast which is left over from last night, something I did not eat, my sandwich basically. And I do have plenty of water. I've got a larger Powerade this time, so I'm starting the electrolytes early, and I'm doing a mix. One thing that I noticed, and probably mentioned a bunch of times on the show, is that when I have the sugar-free versions of these sports drinks, it tends to upset my stomach, regardless of what I'm doing with it. And so I have switched to the sugary versions of it, just because that's uncomfortable, as you might expect. So I'm still watering them down as I can. It's hard to do that when you have full bottles of water and whatnot, but since I had plenty of water and the ability to refill, I was able to do that this morning. I'm carrying a little bit more, I think, than I was yesterday, which probably is a good idea. The sun is getting pretty strong in my face right now. I did apply my sunscreen. Yesterday I found the end of the day that there's a lot of, I don't want to call it was chunkiness of even the spray on, and I think that it probably just degrades over time, and I had layer upon layer of it on me. Like kind of white, almost like dried Elmer's glue. But it had a rubbery consistency. Gross, but it all washed off just fine. But yeah, another good reason why going to a nicer sit-down place on a ride like this, just not really in the cards for me. I just think I don't present very well, and I guess that matters to me. Now we'll see what happens around lunchtime. There seems to be a ton of opportunities in Flagler Beach that may fit the bill really well, and I do think taking a little extended break and having the ability to really hydrate up and get some good calories into me, or some bad calories, but calories nonetheless, should be a good thing. I'll probably stop not too long from now. I've been rolling for close to 45 minutes, so I think it's a good time to early on camel up and maybe even consider putting on another good coating of sunscreen now that the sun is more up in the sky and it's Bernie rays, not Bernie like Bernie the name, but Bernie like the ability to burn. I think having some more protection is good. Yeah, on past rides I was not nearly as aggressive with the sunscreen, and even after the first day you scrunch your face a little bit and you can feel, oh yeah, I got sun. Well, I haven't had that the last couple of years because I've been much better with the sunscreen. It's important, especially really any tour that you do, but especially when you're doing a winter tour and if you are melanin challenged such as myself. Although I suppose that doesn't really impact the impacts of skin cancer and stuff like that. But point being, it's good to get the sunscreen on you, regardless of your skin type. I'm trying to see if I can find a good spot to take that break. Of course, now we're in a place where it's quieted down a lot, as you can probably hear. So we're probably on the outskirts of St. Augustine Beach right now, and working our way into an area that's probably not as populated, which is great for me, but not as good for Arlene and a bike. Oh, I see a couple of light poles that will do just the trick. They will do excellent. So I will bid you adieu when I get to the light pole here at Seaview. And what is Seaview? I assume it's some kind of a planned community of some type. It's a residential community. Well, of course it is. Here in beautiful San Augustine Beach. Okay, more to come as I work my way down to Flagler Beach and then, of course, to Daytona, Florida. Here on, I think we're still on the Old Coast. I don't know. We'll see. From somewhere on the Florida coast. Is going to be one of those days. Just between you and me and every other person listening. This is a headwind day, I am sorry to say. And I have only gone 12 miles in a little under 2 hours. It's really a little depressing because I haven't been paying attention to mileage. Been struggling a little bit against this headwind, and it's not a very big headwind, but again, just whatever, it's either super flat or I am going up an imperceptible grade. I'm really digging in, and I'm in a lower gear, and it is very slow going. So the day is going to be one of those days. I am hoping that maybe things improve a little bit down the road here, but certainly have the break to look forward to. But whereas I thought I was going to be there in a couple hours, boy, at this rate, let's see here, it could be 3 hours from where I'm at right now. Now, that's being a little, maybe it's not going to be 3 hours, but I've got probably about, 18 miles to go, at least, until I'm in Flagler Beach. 16.6 till I'm till the trail. Then I got to find a place and hang out. But that's, I thought it was 2 hours ago, about a half hour ago, and I think it's probably 2 hours plus at this point. I'm not averaging very good speed. And I have taken, took a break, a larger break, large, it's a few minutes, but it does add up over time. But yeah, I'm just puttering along here. And as I'm looking ahead, there's definitely a grade. You can see it, and sometimes there's more than others, but the bigger thing though is, of course, just even a very small headwind will work against you, and it's gusts a little bit here and there. I have ridden in much worse. In fact, last year's was much worse. But this is the beginning of the day, not the end of the day like that had. And although that certainly sapped me, this is a bit discouraging. So hopefully we'll have some better news down the road here, because it's just put your head down and go, which is fine. But knowing that I've got, let's really get depressed, 46 miles to go. That's a lot of miles considering. So yeah, we'll figure this all out. There are chances for breaks. I left as early really as I could. So it may be that I slap the lights on at the very end and just don't get so concerned about banging these miles out. My usual MO in this scenario is to just put my head down and crank miles out and feel really toasted out and finished at the end and feel good about it, but it really takes a lot out of me. So I think that what I'm going to try to do is not do that and just realize, hey, there's opportunities at the end here with lights, and it's better to slow this down and attempt to enjoy it a little bit more, which honestly I would like to do. As I've been riding here, I've been thinking how a slower version of this ride probably would have been a little more fun for me. I'm starting up another hill, so I'm going down into my first gear, which is strange on this Brompton. But yeah, instead of averaging 50 miles, boy, wouldn't it have been more fun if I had been doing 35 and just added a couple of days maybe. That certainly would have been more fun. And then you can do more. But historically, this is a ride where it's okay, I want to ride long miles in good weather and celebrate at the end. And so that's certainly a way to do it. But it's getting me thinking about next year and maybe rethinking the concept of the ride and maybe having a different finish line potentially, but also focusing more on just enjoying all of the towns I go through rather than zooming through. Going through St. Augustine yesterday was a lot of fun, but it was very brief. And it was fun to see a whole bunch of different places, including this morning, passed by a place in St. Augustine Beach where I had a nice little breakfast one day. And, you know, just to be zooming by these places going, oh, gotta make miles. Yeah, it's the conundrum of certain trips where it's, yes, you're enjoying the views certainly, but you're not necessarily getting to enjoy the experience of hanging out in those places quite as much. But all right, well, hey, I've gone in a solid quarter of a mile since I started talking to you, so that's something, right? I got a lot to go. For the amount of energy I feel like that I've put out, to only have gone 12.4 miles feels a little rough at this point. But we will make do. From just north of Marineland, it's one of those days. The wind has picked up. It's a little after 10 a.m. Yeah, it's going to take me a while to get to Flagler Beach. That's for sure. Horrible news though to report. Absolutely heartbreaking news. My beloved Syracuse University hat is now somewhere on A1A. Somewhere. Sad. I thought I had tied it down pretty well, and that was not the case. Do not know where it is. Somewhere between my last stop and here. I will not be going back. No. I'm desperately trying to hydrate here. I am not sure how the rest of today is going to go. I'll have to be honest. It is a slog, and the sun is now starting to get stronger and stronger. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. The bike is performing just fine, doing fine. Just taking a look at the tires to make sure everything is looking good on them. It is. Yeah, inflation's actually pretty good. It was all hot to trot to put some air in there. I still would love to get some in the front tire, but I don't dare do it with the pump I have because I don't think I could pump it much higher than it is right now. So trying to find some teeny tiny shade in this area that does not have a lot of it. I think that's one of the harder parts about this route, as I mentioned in yesterday's episode, last week for you, yesterday for me, that there's not a ton of relief at any point in the day. And as we're getting into the strongest sun, that is starting to get to me. So yeah, Flagler Beach will definitely have a longer break, and we'll assess from there what's going to be happening. But moving along, I mean, just puttering along, it's just not very fast, just because you can't go super fast with this bike in a pretty big headwind. So yeah, this would have been a good one for the e-bike. And it was funny because I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. I did originally think about this as an e-bike trip, but it was going to be a lot of moving parts because, again, staging. Anytime you're looking at staging an e-bike, you've got to get it down here and get it back. And I looked at shipping, I looked at taking the train down, and I even had at one point train reservations. Did I mention any of this? If I did, forgive me for the repeat, but because right now I wish I had an e-bike, I'll be honest. So yeah, I ended up abandoning it because I just didn't love the route from the train station in Jacksonville. And of course I could have done a different trip, but I was interested and committed, I guess, to the notion of this being a Jacksonville to Orlando trip. So I did what I did, and here I am, paying somewhat of the price. Feeling very tight in the hips right now, which makes sense considering I haven't even gone 20 miles yet. And to feel this depleted is a bit rough. So yeah, we may be looking at a fast forward. I hate to mention that, but I do think that is potentially in the cards. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to take a few minutes here and get some water into me. I have to at least get to Flagler Beach. I mean, for crying out loud. That would be halfway for the day, roughly. And actually a little bit more depending on where I stop. But yeah, I'm just not feeling 100% right now already. And so you just got to be careful about things. So we'll keep pushing on, and I will hopefully maybe get a second wind here after getting some water and some electrolytes into me. It's interesting, the difference between yesterday and today, in addition to the headwind, is I had a very big breakfast yesterday that I ate early enough that it really digested, and I think it was all in me, and it was a good power reserve for early. And this morning I really didn't. I had a coffee at camp that included the remnants of last night's ice cream, which obviously had some calories in there, and I've been eating as I've been going along here, but yeah, I don't feel as fueled today as I did yesterday. But again, this is just a much harder day with the wind and the terrain too. It is interesting. There is a lot of up and down for Florida purposes. But yeah, I'm just looking at a steak with a ribbon in it, and that ribbon is very much blowing in the headwind way. So it just is what it is. We do not get to control these things. One of these days I'm going to have to look up to see if I was wrong with the nature of the prevailing winds, if they are actually south to north. And if they are, well, my mistake, right? The one nice thing is that starting tomorrow, while I will be going south a little bit, I will be turning inland a bit as well, which, as we know from last year, I caught headwinds. So this could just be a headwind kind of thing. Maybe having Orlando be the finish line is the wrong idea. It should have been the other way around. But hey, I'm here. Here we go. All right, much more to come, hopefully with better news and reserve energies kicking in. From the Flagler Marineland Trail, holy smokes, this was a very necessary thing. I am off A1A, but very parallel to it, and it is covered. So it gets me out of the sun a little bit. It's a little relief from the wind as well. So I think this is going to get me to Flagler Beach. Maybe not very much faster, but maybe with a little less effort and with a little less sun exposure, which frankly is fantastic by my count. I do think that I am going to take my lunch and take my break and then decide from there what's going to be happening. I am leaning towards a fast forward. We've talked about fast forwards. I think I did a whole episode on it. Fast forwards are there for a whole bunch of different reasons. To skip sections you don't find to be as enjoyable as a route, in other words, to get to places you prefer to bike. They also are there for when biking is not as fun given the conditions. And we are approaching that. So it's practicing what I preach by considering a fast forward and seeing what my options would be as well. So extended break in Flagler Beach no matter what. And then we'll figure it out from there what I end up deciding to do. But leaning pretty heavily there. Now, of course, I'm probably at my most tired right now. And at the end of the day, I'll be more than halfway through my very long day, and this would be my longest. So we'll have to play it by ear. I'll also take a look and see what the weather forecast is like, because if the weather forecast is suggesting that these winds are going to maintain or worse strengthen, that's certainly a factor too. All right, much more to come. Now that I am on a trail that is delightful and tree-lined and shaded, at least I would say 80%, 85% shaded it is. Oh, a much better situation. From just north of Flagler Beach, about maybe 4 or 5 miles. Yeah, I am really struggling. The wind and the sun together. I'm at a beach point, and there were a couple people that came in here and were like, wow, you look tired. And I was like, yeah, I am. It's pretty hot. So yeah, so I just stepped out into the sun a little bit here, see if I can dry off. I splashed some cold water on me here at the restroom, which was helpful. I am now at the point where the fast forward is definitely going to happen. It's just a question of from where. And I think the big thing is that I'll need to get a real extended break and get some calories into me and just get out of the sun. I think that what this is telling me is that I underestimated how exposed of a ride this was, and you mix in just the headwind alone, I think this is the real big difference between yesterday and today. Because I started off just perfectly fine and strong, and it went from 100% to I feel like I'm on reserves now. So, and that's after only 30 miles, not even 30 miles. It'll be 30 miles when I get there. That's just not, that's even in my worst bike shape, that's something else. So So yeah, conditions are conspiring against me, and it makes some sense considering I'm reapplied some sunscreen, and we'll be going in a couple of minutes just to see if I can rally it up a little bit more here. As far as my fast forward options go, there's potentially some transit, but I think that honestly the best way to do it, especially with how compact I can get, is to just go with an Uber or a Lyft and have it take me to Daytona. So that's what I'll be investigating and hopefully doing in the next few hours. I'll have to check also what's the earliest I can check into the campground, because now we're getting to the point where it's like I could get there too early, and we certainly don't want that. But yeah, having, I think, a good time off the bike will probably be good and rejuvenating, and I'll feel better after that. But yeah, this sun is, even the difference between stepping out into the shade versus being in the sun, and I'm realizing how much that just takes it out of me while I'm in it. And I've been in it for, the better part of, I started at 7 and it is now 12:15. So yeah, we're talking almost 5 consecutive hours out in this in one way or another, even though I've caught some shade here and there. It's been a lot, so a little too much for me. So is it a bummer? Yeah, but at the same time, we do these fast forwards for a reason, and it's good because, yeah, I could just gut through it and get in at 6, 7 o'clock, but I would be just so wiped. I don't know how I would be for the next morning. The good news is that tomorrow is a shorter day. It's a 37-mile day. And I'm thinking that just because I'm going in a different direction, it might be a little bit better. And I also know that on that trail, it's a lot less exposed. Now, the fourth day is going to be interesting because I think the last time I looked at the weather, it's just getting warmer and warmer in that part of the state. And so we'll have to see. That's another 50-ish. Actually, it's a 50-plus mile day. And of course, the very end of it is the ride into Disney World. So I want to be on my best A game for that. So we'll have to see. We might pair a mini fast forward somewhere in between there as a part of all of this, and then do the kind of finish line type of thing. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. You know what I mean? All right. I just saw that my move goal has gone 200%, which makes sense because, frankly, I'm moving a lot more on this trip than on my typical day. That's my watch just buzzing me. All right, more to come, and I'll have an update on that fast forward for you in, maybe in the next segment. You never know. From Port Orange, Florida, at Nova Family Campground. Holy smokes. I am much better than I was. I'm going to be very interested in listening back to where my mental state was that you just got to experience listening to. That was a really challenging day. I ended up doing a little over 30 miles, and it took me 6 hours, over 6 hours, I think, to do that, with all the breaks and everything that was in there. And I don't think I could have gone another mile. I really don't. It was so challenging at the end. The headwinds were, I have no way of, I should check and see if there's currently a forecast that's showing what the headwinds were, but they were robust, and I just was getting pushed back. I was doing probably no more than 5 or 6 miles per hour, particularly at the end. And if you just do the math, I was probably doing not much better than that for the entire trip on average. Of course, you have to factor in the stops and everything like that. But it was a very challenging day. And it was a great example of sometimes you make plans, and I had a reservation for this place, obviously, but there was no way that I was going to be able to physically bike here. And so you end up having a couple of different choices at that point. You can stop and make a new lodging opportunity for yourself, which I could have done in Flagler Beach and just eaten the reservation here. Or do what I did, which was basically hire the chattiest Uber driver in the history of Uber, a Kansas City Chiefs fan and a West Virginia Mountaineer fan, high-end rivals for all of my sports teams. So that was a little painful, but that's all right. In any event, I am here early. I mean, it is 2:30 p.m., so, which it seems impossible considering where I was and how far behind I was and how difficult of a slog it would have been. I cannot underscore how impossible it would have been for me to get here under my own power. Just absolutely impossible. So the fast forward came in handy. It was critical, in fact. So where am I at? I'm fed because I had lunch at a place, I can't remember what it was called. I think it was called Breakaways or something like that. And it was fine. I basically just had 2 full sugar sodas, and I had a Caesar salad with shrimp in it because I needed something fresh in me. And how do I feel? I feel fine-ish. I think clearly I needed to replenish myself. I pushed myself really hard just to even get to that point, and I find that when I'm pushing, I will find that it's harder for me to keep up with hydration and other things. I suspect I'm probably pretty dehydrated despite what I did at the end there. Losing my hat was a bummer because this is the time when I'd I'd really like my hat because it's really sunny here and I don't have a hat to put on. So I'm going to have to fix that at some point. Where I'm at in Port Orange is very close to Daytona. So that's obviously a potential opportunity. But I'll be honest, I think that the best thing that I can do here is get my tent set up, relax, drink a ton of water, and just maybe take a look at what the next couple of days have in store for me, because it's very clear that I can't do what I just did to myself in either of the next couple of days. That was not good for me. I don't think it was good for anyone. Maybe it was good to listen to, but it was not good physically. So I'm going to assess things. Now, tomorrow, as I sit here right now, I know is a much lower mileage day. But if it's a low mileage day with the exact same headwinds, I will not be able to complete said mileage day because I only did 30 miles with the headwinds I had. But I'm going to be going in a different direction. I'm going to be going a little bit south, but I'm going to be mostly going west. So hopefully things will be okay. If past is prologue, there's a good chance of me catching some headwinds, but I also will be on a trail and not in just open beach like I was today. The bummer about today was there were some really beautiful places. I mean, the ocean was there and the sand dunes and things like that, but there was no reason to take pictures when I stopped. It was a do one thing and get through it situation. So will this become type 2 fun eventually? I don't think so. No, I think that this was a really hard day. I don't know if this is going to be a fun podcast to listen to. I think that normally when things go sideways, it's a better podcast, but I don't know, maybe not. But I am looking forward to tomorrow to maybe wipe away the challenge that today was. And I'm grateful for the fact that I was in a place where it was trivially easy for me to pull out my phone, order up an Uber in this case, and just throw my gear in and go, and literally got dropped right off here. I do know that there's a pizza place that's not too terribly far away from here that's like a 5-minute bike ride or a 20-minute walk if I'm just I'm done with biking today. But I think I'm going to take a couple hours and just get my head screwed on straight, go take a shower, and just reassess things, especially for that 4th day. I think some of the things I may do today, now that I've got a little extra time with daylight, is see what that looks like, see what if there are fast forward needs or options for that day, just so that I'm a little bit more prepared just in case I'm not able to handle the mileage of either day. I expect I should be able to, but this is, again, meant to be a fun trip, and maybe I was a little aggressive with it. But I planned this thinking that I would have a lot more prep going into it, and, well, I didn't. But I do have to say, this is still fun. Oh, did it just turn into type 2 fun? I guess. And I'm just really glad that I've got the space and the time to be able to do this, because I just didn't have space and time for anything over the last month or so, and it's nice to have that back. It feels good. It feels like a nice little reward for all the craziness that's happened in my life. So yay for that. All right, I will probably check in one more time just to give a sense of where I'm at and what's to come tomorrow for me, next week for you, and settle back into not crisis mode. That feels pretty good. From the campground again, and a bit of a preview to close out tonight here at a muggy spot. Sun is about to dip below the trees, which will make this area a little warmer too. which is fine. We're above 80 degrees, which is, I think, kind of part of the problem that went in today. It was hotter and muggier than expected. So you got that. The next thing was the wind. It was windier and directly in front of me, more than expected. So I feel good that I was able to combat it as long as I did. I'm feeling much better now. I really do need to drink a lot more water, and I will do that tomorrow. So it turns out tomorrow is going to be much cooler. Yay, that's great. Also turns out that tomorrow the likelihood of rain in the morning is measurable. Not 100%, but it's high enough that it's entirely possible it's going to happen. So where are we at? What are we going to do here? Well, I think that the answer is I'm not going to change a thing. Although, because my mileage is a little less tomorrow, I was like, well, how is tomorrow's weather going to be other than the potential for rain? And the indignities of a wet tent and all that other kind of good stuff. I'll deal with that. I'll handle that as necessary. It turns out that I may very well, if the forecast on my phone is correct, may very well have a tailwind, which is really going to be, well, frankly, a lot better than a headwind. I would be just fine with no impact wind. A tailwind would be great if I could get that. So tomorrow looks like a potentially less than ideal start, but less mileage for the day, which means I don't necessarily have to get up immediately. I've noticed that on my route, it's a very rural route, so I'm going to have to make sure that I've got all the water that I need. I've got quite a bit of my electrolytes left, although I watered that down some, but if it's going to be cooler tomorrow, that should be better and shorter, of course. But I think I'm going to have a bigger breakfast to start my day. There is a Bob Evans, for those of you not from the States, it's a breakfast place, and it's famous for its sausage. So I will, I think, go there and maybe hope to hit there shortly after opening and get a decent breakfast in me and get caffed up and get watered up and all that other good stuff. There's also a Marathon gas station that's not very far from my turnoff into the beginning of the rural areas. I think if I decide I need something in addition to that, most notably something to eat for lunch or heavy snacks or something like that, that's where I'm going to go for that. So I'm not going to try to get out of here early because I'm intending to really motor out of here early. I'm going to leave here early so that I can do those morning chores, for lack of a better way of putting it. And then I'll go from there and ride to the destination. There is a potential thought that what I might do, because this is a free campsite and therefore I have no money sunk into it, that I may look to see if there's additional or different lodging opportunities further on down. Will I do a fast forward? Not sure, but that's the things that I'm thinking about here tonight. You're going to learn all about it on the next episode. For me, it's tomorrow. And I'm glad that I was able to look through this stuff on my phone. I feel a little bit more prepared to have a little bit of planning into me. And so at least I can try to make tomorrow a better performance day than today. But I also have to say that as I'm sitting here, I'm not going to be too hard on myself because it was a really difficult day for conditions. That kind of headwind, that kind of heat and humidity, I'm just not used to it. Not too long ago, I was in sub-zero temperatures for a long time, a week, that big polar vortex that went through. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I actually thought this might happen. I didn't know it would happen in such a spectacular way, but it did. And like I said, I feel like I certainly put in the same effort that I was intending to today, but I didn't get as far. But hey, 30 some odd miles, nothing to sneeze at when you're facing that kind of conditions. And I feel like I'm going to say that today was a success. Am I at the type 2 fun point yet? Absolutely not. Although the trip is fun and I am looking forward to whatever tomorrow brings. I am looking forward to either pitching my tent or not pitching my tent. We will see. And I'm going to go get some pizza, I think. There's a pizza place not very far from here. The sun will certainly go down between now and me finishing said pizza. But I think I'm going to walk because though my bike certainly would be a good idea,
to make this be faster, I am not interested in speed at this moment. I'm interested in maybe stretching out the muscles that don't get worked as much when you're on a bike. And if you have ever done any distance cycling, you know that can actually feel really good, is to walk a little bit once you're off the bike. So that is my intention for today and tonight. So, crazy day. I feel pretty good about it, all things considered. And I think that tomorrow could be a great day, and it could be setting up for an even greater day 4. And that's really what this trip is all about. Great days.
Statistics. Miles biked, 30.4. Very hard miles. Miles not biked, 27.4, which would have been way harder. Ubers, 1. Towns with beach in the name, 6. Flats, 0.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.